If your title were removed tomorrow, who would you be? If your children grew up, left home, and no longer needed you in the same way, would your usefulness disappear? If the business you built closed its doors, would your reason for waking up close with it? If the ministry you serve came to an end, would your purpose end too? These are not questions about employment, parenting, business, or ministry. These are questions about identity. Write this principle down. When you attach a permanent identity to a temporary responsibility, every transition feels like personal extinction. That is why some people cannot release a position. They do not merely occupy the position. The position occupies them. They have said, I am a manager, I am a founder, I am a pastor, I am needed here. Then change arrives, and change always arrives, and they feel as though life itself has rejected them. But here is the governing truth of this message. Purpose endures, while assignments change with the season. Purpose answers why you contribute. Assignment answers how, where, and when you must contribute now. Your purpose may remain consistent while its expression changes completely. The platform may disappear without the gift disappearing. The audience may change without the message becoming meaningless. The responsibility may conclude without your life becoming empty. Think of an actor walking off a stage. One scene ends, the costume is removed, the setting changes. The actor receives a different responsibility in the next scene. But leaving the scene does not mean leaving the story. Some of you are grieving a costume. Some are mourning a setting. Some are holding on to a scene that has already completed its work. And because you confuse the scene with the story, you interpreted transition as death. Examine yourself honestly. Which role would you be most afraid to lose? Which title, relationship, or responsibility makes you feel significant? Your answer may reveal whether your identity is rooted in enduring purpose or borrowed from a temporary assignment. But there is hope. An ending does not have to erase you. It can release you. Formation, service, leadership, transition, and legacy are not competing lives. They can be successive expressions of one meaningful life. We are going to trace that pattern, and before we finish, you will build a practical map of your own journey and identify the responsibility of your present season. But first, we must separate 4 ideas that people constantly confuse: purpose, assignment, role, and season. Now write these 4 words down: purpose, assignment, role, and season. If you confuse them, change will frighten you. If you separate them, change can serve you. Purpose is the enduring contribution built into your design. It is the need you are equipped to address, the value you repeatedly add, and the people your gifts enable you to serve. Purpose is not first about recognition. It is about responsibility. It answers the question, why am I here? Assignment is different. An assignment is the particular work entrusted to you for a particular time, among particular people, under particular conditions. Purpose answers why. Assignment answers how, where, and when right now. Then there is role. A role is the visible name people give your present function. Employee, parent, founder, pastor, teacher, caregiver, leader, mentor. Roles help society understand what you are doing, but they cannot fully define who you are. Finally, a season is the period during which an assignment and its role carry a certain priority. Ecclesiastes teaches that life unfolds through appointed times. That means wisdom is not only knowing what to do. Wisdom is knowing what time it is. Here is the order. Identity is deeper than role. Purpose is deeper than occupation. Assignment is more specific than ambition. Season determines present priority. Human beings make plans, but plans must remain accountable to purpose. Conditions change, resources change, relationships change, opportunities change. Therefore, plans may need to change. But a changed plan does not require a changed reason for living. Consider a seed. First, it disappears beneath the soil. Then it develops roots. Later comes the trunk, then branches, then fruit, and finally more seed. At every stage, it appears to be doing something different. Underground, it is establishing. Above ground, it is growing. In maturity, it is producing. In multiplication, it is reproducing. Its function changes with the season, but its governing design remains continuous. So you may change jobs 10 times and still serve one purpose. You may leave formal leadership and express the same purpose through mentoring. You may complete the intensive years of raising children and then carry your gift for development into a school, a neighborhood, or another generation. The platform changed. The contribution continued. Say this to yourself: my role may change, but my life does not lose meaning. My assignment may end, but my purpose still demands expression. This vocabulary will protect you from turning every transition into an emergency. But now we must confront the belief that created much of the confusion, the myth that purpose must be one perfect role, discovered once and preserved forever. The myth says there is one perfect role waiting for you somewhere, and once you find it, you must preserve it for the rest of your life. If that role changes, you assume you failed. If the door closes, you assume you missed God. If another assignment begins, you wonder whether your entire past was a mistake. That belief is attractive because it promises certainty. It relieves you of the responsibility to keep discerning. It allows one title to answer questions that a title was never designed to answer. You say, I am a teacher, and the title feels complete. But teaching may be your occupation, while developing people is your contribution. Now test the myth. If your job can be eliminated by a decision you did not make, can that job carry the total meaning of your existence? If a company can fail, can that company own your purpose? If children can mature, can active parenting remain the only proof of your usefulness? If a position can be transferred to another leader, was your identity ever supposed to be trapped inside it? No temporary structure is strong enough to support eternal meaning. Write this down. Occupation describes your present work. Contribution reveals the value moving through that work. A teacher can develop people. A manager can develop people. A parent can develop people. A counselor can develop people. A mentor can develop people. 5 roles, 1 recurring contribution. The platform changes, but the pattern remains. Consider Jesus. His early work, his public ministry, and his final mission were not identical activities. Yet his identity did not originate in a workshop, and his purpose did not begin when crowds appeared. The settings changed. The responsibilities developed. The governing intent remained. Every person must answer 5 questions. Who am I? Where am I from? Why am I here? What am I capable of? Where am I going? Your occupation can tell people where you report on Monday morning. It cannot fully answer your identity, source, purpose, potential, or destination. And when those questions remain unanswered, comparison takes control. You begin copying another person's platform because you have not recognized your own contribution. You imitate their title, their method, their audience, even their season. But difference is not deficiency. Different gifts are intentional. Different seasons are necessary. You do not need another person's role to validate your purpose. Stop asking, which title will make me meaningful forever? No title can do that. Ask instead, what contribution continues to appear wherever I serve? What problem do I keep helping solve? What value keeps moving through my gifts? You are not imprisoned by one career. You are not disqualified because a position changed. You are not lost because an old label no longer fits. Release the title worship. Reject career fatalism. Your role is a vehicle, not your identity. And once the vehicle stops controlling the investigation, you can finally examine the trail, the repeated pattern that has been following you through every season of your life. Here is the through-line principle. Purpose is often clearer when you look backward than when you look forward. Most people expect a complete blueprint of the future. They want every door identified, every role named, and every year explained before they begin. But purpose often reveals itself as a trail. You recognize it by studying what has repeatedly moved through your life. So examine 4 kinds of evidence. First, what constructive service gives you deep energy? Not merely what entertains you, but what makes you feel fully engaged while helping someone else. Second, what human problem creates a burden that does not quickly leave you? Many people can observe the same disorder, but certain needs disturb you personally. You keep thinking about them. You keep asking why something cannot be improved. Third, what useful ability follows you into different environments? Perhaps you explain difficult ideas, organize confusion, encourage discouraged people, build systems, protect the vulnerable, reconcile conflict, or recognize potential in others. What feels ordinary to you may be significant because it is native to your design. Fourth, where's the fruit? This is important. A gift is not proven merely because you enjoy expressing it. Gifts are entrusted for service. What becomes clearer because you were present? Who becomes stronger? What is restored, protected, developed, built, or improved? Now take an honest journey through your history. Review your childhood interests, early family responsibilities, paid employment, unpaid service, painful crises, important relationships, and moments of leadership. Do not rank them by salary or prestige. Purpose can leave evidence in places the world considers insignificant. And do not merely record activities. Translate activities into functions. Do not write only, "I taught a class." Ask what you were actually doing. Were you clarifying confusion, developing confidence, organizing knowledge, equipping people to act? The activity is the container. The function may reveal the contribution. Imagine someone who cared for younger siblings, coordinated projects at work, trained volunteers in a community organization, and later managed a department. Those roles appear unrelated, but underneath them may be one repeated function: bringing order to complex situations and developing people until they become capable. That is the thread. But be careful. One emotional moment is not enough. Excitement alone is not purpose. Anger alone is not purpose. Talent alone is not purpose. Look for convergence, sustained passion, recurring burden, useful ability, consistent service, and repeated fruit, moving in the same direction over time. Now form a provisional sentence. I am equipped to use these recurring strengths to help these people address this recurring problem. Do not demand perfect wording. The sentence can mature as your understanding grows. You are not manufacturing purpose. You are naming the pattern already present. And once you recognize that pattern, you must understand how it develops. The thread first passes through two essential seasons: preparation, where capacity is formed, and direct service, where capacity becomes useful. The first season is formation. Formation is the period when your character, competence, discipline, and endurance are developed before your assignment becomes widely visible. Most people want visibility without formation. They want the platform before the preparation, authority before discipline, and influence before integrity. But public responsibility magnifies private condition. If your inner life cannot support the weight of the assignment, the opportunity you prayed for may become the pressure that exposes you. Look at the pattern. David learned responsibility among sheep before governing a nation. Joseph learned administration through painful and restricted environments before managing resources on a larger scale. Jesus spent years in ordinary work before entering public ministry. The field, the confinement, and the workshop were not the final assignments, but each environment developed something the future would require. Now be careful. Hardship by itself does not prove that you are aligned with purpose. Suffering is not automatically preparation. Remaining in a damaging situation without wisdom is not necessarily faithfulness. The correct question is this: what is this season producing in me? Is it building useful capacity? Is it deepening integrity? Is it increasing my readiness to serve? Write down the first law of formation. Never despise what is small merely because you can imagine what is large. A seed is not a failed tree. It is a tree being developed in the correct order. Roots appear before fruit because hidden strength must precede visible weight. If you keep resenting the hidden season, you may neglect the very discipline that makes the visible season sustainable. Then comes the season of direct service. This is where the gift meets a genuine need. Purpose moves from something you sense within yourself to something that becomes useful beyond yourself. Direct service requires proximity. You must get close enough to understand the problem. It requires practice because raw ability is not mature competence. It requires humility because feedback will expose what enthusiasm cannot see. It requires reliability because people cannot build on a gift that appears only when applause is available. And it requires responsibility for outcomes, not merely good intentions. Activity is not productivity. A crowded calendar does not prove alignment. Noise does not prove impact. Movement does not prove fruit. Purposeful service leaves something better than it found it. Confusion becomes clearer. Weakness becomes stronger, disorder becomes organized, and people become more capable. So examine your present environment. What is it training in you? Patience, judgment, communication, courage, discipline. And whom does your current work allow you to serve, even if the platform is temporary? Do not become so fascinated with tomorrow that you neglect today's assignment. You do not need the next decade explained before you can obey the next responsible step. Be faithful with what is in your hands now. Because faithful service eventually creates a new demand. The contribution must grow beyond what one person can perform alone. That is where leadership begins, and leadership must mature into multiplication. Leadership begins when the assignment becomes larger than your personal performance. In the season of service, you ask, how can I do this work well? In the season of leadership, the question changes. What must be organized so that many people can contribute to this result? That is not merely promotion. It is expanded responsibility. Write this principle down. Leadership is not ownership. Leadership is stewardship. A leader does not possess the mission, the people, or the resources. A leader manages them on behalf of a purpose greater than personal ambition. Therefore, leadership is not evidence that you are more valuable than others. It is evidence that you are accountable for more than yourself. This season demands discipline. You must provide clear direction so energy is not wasted. You must establish priorities so urgent distractions do not consume important work. You must train judgment so people can make sound decisions when you are absent. You must protect standards so growth does not destroy quality. You must develop people because an assignment cannot expand if everyone remains dependent on your hands. And you must remain accountable for fruit because activity without results is organized busyness. But leadership is not the final stage. Leadership must mature into multiplication. Multiplication begins when you stop measuring success only by what you produce and start measuring it by whom you develop. The goal is no longer simply to perform the work. The goal is to produce capable people who can perform it responsibly without constant dependence on you. Jesus spoke of fruit that remains. That means the effect of purpose should continue beyond a personality, beyond a title, and beyond one period of influence. If everything stops when you stop, you may have created admiration, but you did not create continuation. Now comes the difficult part. Insecure leaders resist multiplication. They hide information because knowledge makes them feel indispensable. They refuse to delegate authority because another person's growth feels threatening. They call control excellence, and they call dependency loyalty. But hear this law of succession. If the assignment collapses when you leave, you may have built dependence instead of capacity. A mature leader documents what others need to know. A mature leader delegates real responsibility, not meaningless errands. A mature leader coaches judgment instead of giving every answer. A mature leader allows developing people to carry weight, make correctable mistakes, and grow through experience. And a mature leader publicly affirms those who are becoming capable. You cannot prepare a successor while secretly competing with them. Developing a replacement is not planning your irrelevance. It is protecting the mission and preparing yourself for the next season. Leadership is not a throne where you sit forever. Leadership is a bridge over which purpose travels into other lives. So, examine your responsibilities. What currently depends too heavily on you? What knowledge exists only in your mind? Who has potential but lacks opportunity? Whom must you begin equipping not someday, but now? Say it plainly. I will not use leadership to make people need me. I will use leadership to make people capable. That is multiplication. That is fruit with endurance. That is purpose maturing beyond personal performance. But preparing others raises a difficult question. How do you know when it is truly time to release an assignment and when you are merely trying to escape it? Transition requires discernment because two mistakes are possible. You can leave too early and abandon the development your future requires. Or you can remain too long and obstruct the person who should lead next and the assignment you should enter next. Write down the law of discernment. Purpose can remain steady while its method, audience, platform, or level of responsibility changes. How do you recognize a mature transition? Look for convergence, not one emotional moment. The essential work may be complete or stable. Fruit may be visible. People you develop may now carry genuine responsibility. The original burden may remain alive in you, but it is seeking a different expression, and your present role may increasingly require release rather than expansion. Then apply the test of transfer. A genuine transition usually carries developed capacity forward. You do not throw away the wisdom, relationships, discipline, and judgment formed in the last season. You translate them. Purpose does not waste preparation. But every desire for change is not direction. Sometimes you are merely bored with ordinary discipline. Sometimes you are offended and want distance instead of healing. Sometimes you crave a larger audience. Sometimes another person's platform has made your assignment appear insignificant. Sometimes you reject accountability. And sometimes you are trying to escape a lesson that will meet you again at the next address. Here is the difference. Restlessness says anything but this. Direction says, I am being drawn toward this responsibility. Restlessness can name what it hates. Direction can name what it must serve. Restlessness destroys impulsively. Direction prepares responsibly. Restlessness abandons people. Direction manages the effect of change. Do not demand a complete picture before taking the next faithful step. Purpose unfolds progressively, but known responsibility requires present obedience. Light for the next step is enough to begin moving. You do not need a map of the next decade to make one disciplined decision today. So build a transition plan around 4 actions. First, complete what must be completed. Do not call unfinished responsibility a new season. Second, prepare the people who will be affected. Communicate clearly, transfer knowledge, and strengthen those who must continue. Third, preserve what should remain. A new leader does not require the destruction of every useful principle, relationship, or system. Fourth, test the next expression. Begin learning, serving, and gathering evidence before demolishing structures that may still be necessary. Bring the decision before God in honest examination. Ask whether you are being led by service or ego, conviction or offense, responsibility or fear. Seek wise confirmation from people who understand your character and your pattern of contribution. But remember, counsel should clarify design, not replace it with other people's expectations. You must manage both courage and patience. Courage keeps you from remaining after your assignment is complete. Patience keeps you from leaving before your formation is complete. Now ask yourself the decisive question. Am I being called to abandon my purpose or merely to change the vehicle through which that purpose is served? That question can protect you from impulsive quitting and fearful stagnation. Yet, even when the evidence is clear, many people still cannot move. Why? Because the greatest obstacle in transition is often not the plan, it is the heart. The heart clings to expired assignments for 4 powerful reasons. The first is identity attachment. You have repeated, I am this role, for so many years that releasing the role feels like erasing yourself. You are not merely leaving an office, a department, a stage, or a daily responsibility. You feel as though you are leaving you. But remember the order. You carried the role. The role did not create you. The second reason is fear of obscurity. Public usefulness can become confused with visibility. When people know your name, seek your opinion, and depend on your decisions, you feel significant. Then a quieter season arrives, and you interpret reduced attention as reduced value. Do not confuse visibility with usefulness. Roots are hidden, but they sustain the tree. A mentor may touch fewer people directly while multiplying influence through those people for generations. The third reason is loyalty to past success. A method produced fruit, so you assume it must remain sacred. But conditions change, people change, needs change. A tool can be valuable in one season and inadequate in another. You honor yesterday's success by preserving its principles, not by worshiping its methods. The fourth reason is grief. Every meaningful assignment gathers relationships, routines, sacrifices, victories, and memories. When it ends, something real has been lost. Do not cover that loss with artificial celebration. Grief is not always resistance to God. Sometimes grief is evidence that you loved what you were trusted to serve. But unprocessed grief can turn memory into a prison. Identity attachment refuses release. Fear of obscurity keeps demanding attention. Nostalgia repeats methods that no longer serve. Grief romanticizes the past until no future can compete with it. Write this principle down. Gratitude and release can coexist. An assignment can have been right then without remaining right now. You can thank God for the chapter without trying to live inside it forever. You can honor the people without controlling their future. You can remember the fruit without forcing the old tree to remain in season. So end well. Name what the season gave you. Acknowledge what it cost you. Repair what remains unresolved. Bless the people who will continue the work. Relinquish the title without relinquishing the contribution beneath it. And ask yourself the original question again. If no one ever used my former title, what value would I still be responsible for adding? Your answer will expose the difference between role and purpose. Perhaps the quieter season is not punishment. Perhaps it is a workshop time to reflect, recover, write, mentor, prepare, or hear what constant visibility prevented you from hearing. Obscurity does not mean purpose has vanished. It may mean purpose is changing form. So release what has ended without insulting what it meant. Grieve it. Bless it. Learn from it. Then let it go. Because when the old title finally leaves your hands, you can see what the completed season placed inside them. You did not leave empty. You left equipped. Write this principle down. Assignments expire, but capacity can cross the boundary between seasons. When you served faithfully, the season deposited capital into your life. You may no longer hold the position, but you still possess what the position developed. You may have left the platform, but the discipline, judgment, and understanding can travel with you. There are 4 forms of capital you must carry forward. First, skills. These are the abilities strengthened through repeated responsibility. Communication, planning, administration, conflict resolution, teaching, decision-making, and care. Second, relationships. People from a former season may become trusted friends, future partners, wise advisors, or a community through which another assignment develops. Third, credibility. Consistent service creates trust. Credibility cannot replace character, but when character has been demonstrated over time, people become willing to receive your contribution in a new setting. Fourth, wisdom. Wisdom comes from what succeeded and from what failed. Success teaches what can be repeated. Failure teaches what must be corrected. Both can serve the future if pride does not prevent honest reflection. But transfer requires interpretation. A former manager may carry conflict resolution and people development skills into mentoring. A parent may carry patience, formation, and protection into community leadership. A founder may carry institution building experience into advising a new generation. The role ended, the capacity remained. This pattern appears repeatedly in Scripture. Care for a small responsibility prepared David for governance. Restricted circumstances sharpened Joseph's administrative ability. Hidden work preceded the public service of Jesus. The environment was temporary, but the development was transferable. Now be careful. Transfer does not mean duplication. You cannot force an old assignment onto a new environment. The principle may remain while the method must change. Yesterday's tool may not fit today's problem. Continuity does not require sameness. So conduct an asset inventory. Write down what the last season taught you. Record what people consistently trusted you to do. Identify which mistakes must never be repeated. Name the relationships that should be stewarded instead of carelessly abandoned. Then perform a gap analysis. Ask 3 questions. Which assets already fit the next assignment? Which abilities must be translated into a new context? Which new disciplines must be developed? Do not assume that a quieter contribution is a smaller one. Purpose may become broader, more strategic, more generative, or less visible. You may move from performing to advising, from leading meetings to developing leaders, from building one organization to strengthening many. Think of a relay race. The runner leaves one section of the track and enters another. The lane behind is not dragged forward, but the baton is carried onward. Your former title is not the baton. The baton is the contribution, the capacity, wisdom, relationships, and credibility entrusted to you for continued service. So, do not call your past a pile of disconnected experiences. Read it as preparation. Manage it as capital. Carry it forward with gratitude and intelligence. Now, the final step is to place every season on one map, identify your present responsibility, and convert everything you have learned into a deliberate next assignment. The final season is legacy. Legacy is not merely what people say about you after you are gone. Legacy is purpose multiplied through people, principles, institutions, and wisdom. Retirement from employment is not retirement from contribution. A later season may reduce your formal authority while increasing your responsibility to mentor, document, advise, bless, and release. You may leave the office and still carry wisdom the office helped develop. Your hands may perform less of the work while your life equips more people to perform it. Now build your life through-line map. Draw 7 columns. In the first, write each major season of your life. In the second, record the visible role you held. Then list the people you served, the problem you addressed, the gift you used, the fruit produced, and the lesson gained. Do not rush this exercise. Your history contains evidence. When the table is complete, circle the verbs and outcomes that repeat. Perhaps you kept teaching, restoring, organizing, protecting, building, developing, clarifying, or leading. Those repetitions reveal the contribution beneath the changing roles. Then write one sentence that names your purpose without using a job title. I use these recurring gifts to help these people address this recurring problem. Make it clear enough to direct your decisions and broad enough to survive a change of platform. Now identify your present season. Are you being formed? Are you serving directly? Are you leading? Are you multiplying? Are you transitioning? Are you building legacy? Do not choose the season that sounds most impressive. Name the one that truthfully describes your present responsibility. Then ask, what does faithfulness require now? Build a 90-day plan. Name one responsibility to complete, one capacity to develop, one person to serve, one relationship to steward, and one successor or emerging contributor to strengthen. Purpose becomes powerful when it governs time. Write the central law again. Purpose endures, assignments change. Examine every title you fear losing. Speak your purpose statement aloud. Commit your next step to God. Then schedule the first action, because a plan without initiation is only intention wearing a calendar. And now we can answer the questions with which we began. A title can disappear without erasing identity. Children can mature without ending a parent's contribution. A business can close without burying every gift it developed. A ministry can change hands without canceling the reason its leader was sent. So declare this with conviction. I will not worship a platform. I will not cling to a season that has completed its work. I will not confuse visibility with value. I will recognize my season. I will steward my assignment. I will develop others. I will carry wisdom forward. I will serve until my contribution becomes fruit in lives beyond my own. One purpose can travel through many seasons. Your responsibility is not to make one season last forever. Your responsibility is to understand the time, serve the assignment before you, and never mistake one chapter for the whole story.